I feel like Gallifrey hasn't had the best track record in the last two-ish decades, let's be honest. The Revival series started out with us learning that the planet was gone, and the Doctor was the supposed last of the Time Lords. They've come back, they've gone, they've come back, they've gone. It's like a game of tug-of-war that's been going on for, like I said, 2 decades. Now that we're in a new era, a new Doctor, and a newish showrunner, not new at all, it's the old showrunner, but still, the question is, will we be doing anything with the Time Lords?
Ruby, it's gone. They died.
They're still a big part of the Doctor's life. It's where he's from, even with all of the Timeless Child stuff in the air. Well, I've got a theory. Well, kind of a theory and kind of a wish, I guess. I think the show has a chance of bringing them back, and not only that, they can make them better than they have been for a long time. It's funny, the Revival series has hyped the Time Lords so much, but when we actually have chances to meet them, the showrunners avoid them like a bad smell. RTD kills them off, and when he brings them back for 10's last special, it's super quick. Moffat brings them back properly, but doesn't have the Doctor look for Gallifrey, and when he gets there, 12 really couldn't care less and was more focused on saving Clara. Chibnall had plenty of chances of doing something with the Time Lords, but instead just ends up killing them off again. We do get 2 or 3 episodes with them, not counting the Master, but those interactions are pretty quick. And look, I get it, the Time Lords are always talked about like gods, the thing they've done, the beautiful planet they live on, but it's like the Doctor said,
but all the legends of Gallifrey made it sound so perfect.
Well, perfect to look at, maybe. And it was. It was beautiful.
The idea of them is what's attractive. Who they actually are, not so much. When he said this, it was more about how they are not as nice as the stories lead people to believe, but those words can also apply to the Time Lords as an idea. When the show first introduced the Time Lords, they were a mystical race. So much was unknown about them, but what we did know was that they were powerful.
Doctor, you mustn't call them in or it will be the end of us. They'll show no mercy. You stop the fighting!
The more we got to know them though, the more we learned that, yeah, they're powerful, but they're also neck deep in politics and tradition, and while having them like this does make sense for the Doctor's character, we can understand why a man like him never fit in with these guys. It does strip away the whole godly feel they once had. They felt very godly after the Time War because the show went back to only mentioning them briefly, and I feel like the showrunners were afraid of losing that feeling again if they focused on them too long. This is just me guessing, of course, but if it's true, then I can understand that. I've listened to a few Big Finish stories that had the Doctor surrounded by the Time Lords, and in it, there were times where the more they talked, the more separate they felt from how I originally pictured them. And yeah, I originally pictured them better, more mystical, more godly. At the same time though, I feel like Gallifrey has been wasted. Like there's so much potential with the Doctor and the Time Lords that it's worth giving it a shot. The Doctor is tied to his people, even if he's a timeless child, and even if he's from a different universe. For starters, he spent more time on Gallifrey than he did wherever he came from. Probably. I mean, Tecteun found her when she was a child, so it leads me to believe that the Doctor growing up twice on Gallifrey means he's been there longer. And the second thing, the Doctor's life before the first Doctor doesn't really matter, like the show itself says. I mean, Jo Martin is great, of course, and I will consider her a Doctor.
What's going on? Who are you? I'm the Doctor, mate. Who the hell are you?
But who we've been following for more than 60 years now, that is the Doctor. And this Doctor is a Gallifreyan. There's something so interesting seeing how the Doctor acts around his people. Yes, there's history, there's familiarity. I'm sure there are even some good moments too, but there's also shame. And that shame is what I don't want the show to let go of.
The oldest civilization. Decadent, degenerate, and rotten to the core. 10 million years of absolute power. That's what it takes to be really corrupt.
The Doctor knows how powerful his people are. He knows the responsibility they have. And he knows how a lot of the time his people would disregard that responsibility and do things for personal gain. And it's interesting how the shame and responsibility will fuel him to stop the Time Lords or fix their mistakes. I just like how his people are able to get that reaction out of him. It's like how the Daleks can get any Doctor to drop their smile and just fill them with rage. I think we can bring that back. Bring back the Time Lords without making the audience roll their eyes, because the whole kill 'em, bring 'em back, kill 'em, bring 'em back thing wouldn't work, I feel. but I think my way might. We learned that the Master killed the Time Lords back in Series 12. That's how the series starts, with the Doctor looking at the ruins of Gallifrey in episode 2. Thing is though, the way the Master did it was super vague.
Timelords were murdered. Genocide rolled across time and space like a great big cellular explosion. Maybe it killed her too.
We don't know how he actually did it. All we got was a destroyed capital, Cybermen who are able to regenerate, and the Master going, I did it. I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm not saying Chibnall's idea wasn't to actually have the Master do it. But whether planned or not, there is a way around this. Because we don't know how the Master killed the Time Lords, there's no one to say that whatever he did was inescapable. If RTD wanted, a number of Time Lords could have left before or during whatever attack the Master came up with. What does this mean for the Time Lords in the future? What state will they be in? Well, I actually came up with the idea while thinking about the Jedi after the Purge in Star Wars Episode 3. Things like Rebels and Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor really got me to appreciate the Jedi during this time. They were scattered throughout the galaxy, and to normal people, they were like this mythological creature. Yeah, times weren't the best for them, but boy did they feel cool. But that's what I'm thinking would be a good place for the Time Lords nowadays. With this idea, the Time Lords would be scattered across space and time, maybe not living in hiding, but just trying to live using whatever they're best at, whether that be intelligence, sneakiness, evilness. Maybe some are traveling while others have found a fixed place and are doing whatever. The Doctor could meet them and they could be good, living their life, and then something like an alien or some ancient evil comes and they have to work with the Doctor to help save the day. They could also be evil and we could have the Doctor stop them from taking advantage of a planet or destroying it. This could give us the opportunity of meeting new Time Lords rather than just focusing on the same one we have just been focusing on for way too long now. We could get the Ronnie, the monk, the tax collector, I don't know, and it doesn't have to happen all the time. The last thing I want is for them to overuse the Time Lords, but we could get maybe one Time Lord per season, or one or two in a two-parter, or maybe a special, and that's it. After that, just leave the Time Lords throughout space and time and let the next showrunner have their fun with them. I think if they wanted to do an actual storyline or a two-parter focusing on the Time Lord society post-Master Destruction, while I wouldn't want to see them regain their former power, I think it'd be interesting to have them try and go back to how they used to be. And fail, of course. An interesting problem would be if the Time Lords were trying to regain their power, their plan comes at a cost of a few worlds, and the Doctor has to stop them. Seeing the Doctor go up against the Time Lords and stop this big superpower from using smaller worlds and civilizations in an attempt to going back to their glory days, teaching the Time Lords to embrace this new reality, humble themselves, I think that could be a good story, especially with, like I mentioned before, the personal connection the Doctor has with the Time Lords. We've done them having their own planet and being super powerful and focusing on politics and stuff. We've done them being destroyed and becoming legends and only knowing them by name. I think now it's time to see them in something new again. But that's basically it. Tell me what you guys think about this theory down in the comment section down below. Would you guys like to see the return of the Time Lords, but in this new sort of wanderer way? Or do you think it's just best to close that and maybe focus on where the Doctor really originally came from? Or do you think the Doctor should just move forward and focus on what's in front of him, never mentioning the Time Lord and Timeless Child ever again? I don't know. It's really up to you guys to decide. Tell me it's not actually up to you guys to decide, but still, I want to hear what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next time. Until then, bye.